Paris to Imami, and I'm the host of The Road to Success for Your Highly Sensitive Child. This podcast is about empowering parents of highly sensitive children to nurture their child's unique personality trait and create a path to success. Our podcast provides guidance, insights, and support to help you unlock your child's full potential, fostering resilience, confidence, and a bright future. If you're new to my podcast, please go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 because they provide information on high sensitivity that all subsequent episodes will build upon. If you skip these episodes, you won't get as much out of this and all subsequent episodes. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com. Today's episode is about highly sensitive children's strengths, and I have a very special guest with me, Mrs. Gabriela Sotomayor. The first part of this episode is going to concentrate on the strengths, and then the second part of the episode is going to be an interview with Mrs. Sotomayor. So let's get started. Highly sensitive children possess numerous strengths that contribute to their unique qualities and perspectives. Here are some commonly shared strengths among highly sensitive children. The first one is they are deep thinkers. Highly sensitive children often excel in analysis and creative problem solving. They are tenacious. They don't give up. They try and try until they find a solution or they find an answer to their question. I remember when I was younger, I just started my career and I would get this comment all the time and how tenacious I was, how I would never give up. I would continue to look for solutions to a problem, even when most people around me had given up, and I would always find the right answer and the right solution. And that has been carried with me all throughout my life. And I remember being that way as a child as well. I never gave up. If I needed an answer to a problem or a question, I would seek different ways of obtaining that answer. Empathetic. Highly sensitive children often display a remarkable level of empathy. They're attuned to emotions of others, which allows them to connect deeply with people and respond with compassion. I remember when I was little, I was 11 years old, and my aunt was going through a divorce. And she was struggling so much. She had so much pain in her because she had 2 children and she did not want to hurt her children, but she also wanted to be true to herself. And she was not happy in her marriage, and therefore she wanted to get out of it. And in our culture, divorce is not very common. At least it wasn't at that time. And she was really struggling to make this decision, and she would talk to me for hours and hours and hours, and I would listen to her. I would feel her pain. I would be able to really understand what she's feeling and how sad she was and how much she was struggling. Therefore, I would listen to her for hours and hours, and I would give her advice, and I would tell her what she should do to help herself not feel so sad. And looking back at this, I'm so impressed that at the age of 11, I was able to deal with such a hard topic that most adults don't even know how to deal with. And the fact that I was giving advice to my aunt, who was substantially older than me, is just amazing. Next is effective listeners. For me, that goes hand in hand with being an empath, because when you're an empath and you see someone suffering, you could feel their suffering and you want to help them. And how do you do that? Is by listening to them and listening to them intently, giving them all of your attention and making them feel seen, heard, understood, and validated. And this is something that most highly sensitive children are really, really good at. And this not only helps them as a child in their school years, for example, but it also helps them as an adult in building and cultivating their personal relationships and their relationships with their colleagues. Highly sensitive children are very observant. They are very sensitive to stimuli, which extends to their surroundings. Highly sensitive children tend to be observant and detail oriented, noticing subtleties that others might overlook. This can contribute to enhanced learning, valuable insights, and problem solving abilities. Highly sensitive children are very sensible. And believe me, in today's world, we need all the people in the world to be more sensible. So, highly sensitive children approach risks with caution and make well thought out decisions and choices. Next, we have creative and imaginative thinking. Many highly sensitive children have vivid imaginations. Their sensitivity allows them to engage with the world on a profound emotional level, fostering creativity and a rich inner world of thoughts and ideas. Strong sense of justice. Highly sensitive children often have a strong sense of justice and fairness. They are deeply affected by perceived injustices and are motivated to stand up for what they believe is right. In the past, since 2021, I've gone through a lot of issues with my upstairs neighbor because he had a remodel in his bathroom and it caused a lot of leaks, 8 to 9 leaks in my home. And there was just a lot of injustice that I had to endure in the past 2.5 years. So far, it's been 2.5 years now. And I really learned to stand up for myself because I didn't want to see this injustice continuing. So I learned to stand up for myself and I learned to fight with so many different people, contractors, one after the other, who tried to lie to me and deceive me, and I wasn't having it. And I fought and fought, and I'm still fighting, and I'm not going to give up. Advanced cognitive abilities. Highly sensitive children may have advanced cognitive abilities, including heightened awareness, strong memory, and critical thinking skills. They often process information deeply, contributing to intellectual curiosity and understanding. And lastly, they're excellent intuitive people. Highly sensitive children frequently possess strong intuition. They can sense subtle changes in their environment or relationships, allowing them to make informed decisions based on their instincts. For example, going back to the leak in my home, I was able to detect the slightest change in the contractor's way of speaking or their gestures or their body movement, helping me understand when the contractor was not being truthful to me. So then I would hone in to see what is it that they're trying to hide, and I would always figure it out. It's important that you, as a parent of a highly sensitive child, celebrate these strengths in your child and provide an environment that nurtures and supports these positive qualities, helping your child develop a healthy sense of self esteem and positive outlook on their unique attributes. So now I'm very excited to have my beautiful guest, Mrs. Gabriela Sotomayor, um, giving us her perspective on being a highly sensitive person. Hi, Gabriela. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Paris, too. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you in
Thank you.
this beautiful journey, and glad to be able to share my experience.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. My first question to you is, can you start by sharing a bit about yourself and your journey as a highly sensitive person? And at what age did you learn that you're a highly sensitive person?
Yes, of course. I think I'm going to start backwards.
Of course.
I learned that I was a highly sensitive person, unfortunately, not too long ago. I would say 5, maybe 6 years ago.
Okay.
Um, it was, really by chance. I was going through, a lot of physical pain and emotional pain, and trying to find different ways to help myself. And I ended up going to a Reiki energy provider, somebody that works with energy healing. And during it was our first, my first session. She let me know a little bit about what she felt, and being a highly sensitive person herself, she says, I can see that a lot of the emotional weight that you're carrying comes from, these, this, and these. And she says, if you don't mind, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey. And she says, I have a feeling that you may be a highly sensitive person. And she sensed it, and it's something that was, that she wanted to share with me at the time. Then she recommended I do, a little bit of reading of it, and then also answer a questionnaire. And I think I must have, um, I don't know, two questions that were far off, but other than that, every single box checked.
Wow.
And at that moment, I had a great aha moment. I was just like, okay, well, this describes me perfectly. And at that moment, the information that I had in front of me became, a tool. A tool that I'm still learning how to use, how to navigate, the world, that we're living in presently, with so much around us all the time. But I'm a little bit more mindful about, my surroundings and myself, and I'm become more attuned with how I'm feeling and what I need to do to support me. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing.
Absolutely.
Looking back at your childhood, were there specific moments or experiences that made you aware of your high sensitivity?
As you started, your show, you were sharing with your listeners, the different qualities, right, of highly sensitive people. And, here I am, like, shaking my head, like, yep, yep, yep. So, I think most of them I've experienced as a young child. As a result, it felt like all of it was a lot of distraction for a little body, a little mind. I didn't know what to do with all these emotions. And for me, because I was so attuned always with my environment and observing and, you know, um, absorbing, it affected my schooling. My grades. I was always very distracted, with what was going on around my environment and what I was feeling. That I was, that I had a hard time with school.
Okay. So it
Um,
impacted your grades.
it affected my grades. It affected, yeah, even my relationships, my friendships at school.
Okay.
And it was my mom. I was very fortunate. My mom, I don't know this for sure. She's no longer here with us, but I would like to think that she had this personality trait as well, because she was the only person that I felt really got who I am and celebrated who I was.
That's beautiful.
And she didn't want me to be like my sister, who was very outgoing and an extrovert and super achiever. My younger sister, as the older sister, I'm fortunate that there was never that comparison between the two of us. But I suffer socially at school. I felt like I had to try to be something else to try to make up for some of what I perceived at the time lacks, or it made me question myself a lot. Like, what's wrong with me,
Mhm.
right? Like, why can't I focus? Why am I so sensitive? Why do things people do and say affect me in such a way,
Mhm.
right? So it was early on that my mom said, you need to learn how to stand up for yourself.
Mhm.
There are ways. And she really was my guide with little that she knew. I don't think back in the day we knew
No,
anything
no.
about these, but she knew there was something going on.
Mhm.
So so yeah, I think that's how it affected me. It was just too much.
Mhm.
Ever since I was a young child, noise and light,
Mhm.
I get very stimulated,
Mhm.
and that's really something really hard to cope with when you're in a classroom in big,
Yeah.
large groups.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it will be important for parents to be able to, learn about these personality traits in their children so that they can offer them support in other ways, right? That
Yeah.
can help them level out what they have to go through out in
Absolutely.
the world, and
Mhm.
then, try to create some sort of, I wouldn't say a cave or escape or a sanctuary at
Mhm.
home
Mhm.
where children are able to just kind of like recalibrate.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. I realized that I never thought about this until the leak happened in my home, but I realized that I have built a sanctuary for myself in my home. And I
Mhm.
love coming home because I know it's the only place on this planet that I can have peace
Mhm.
because I've made my home be exactly how I want it to be, how it supports me, um, how it nurtures me and gives me the energy that I need to kind of settle from all the various stimuli that I have
Mhm.
observed throughout the day. So
Exactly.
yeah, I totally understand what you've just shared with us. So, how did your parents or caregivers support you in understanding and embracing your sensitivity during your formative years? You just shared a little bit with us about your mom and how
Mhm.
she really understood, and that, even though this personality trait wasn't really understood until 1991, but back then, even your mom knew that you were different than your sister, and she celebrated that difference instead of comparing you to your sister and saying that, this is why can't you be more like your sister, for example, which is what I got as a child. Is I
Mhm.
don't have a sister, but I would often get, you know why can't you be more like your brother?
Mhm.
So anything that you want to elaborate on?
Yeah, like I, just shared, I was fortunate enough to have my mom as, as advocate.
Hmm.
That's what I would call it, as an advocate, but only for 11 years of my life.
Hmm.
So, her passing was pretty traumatic for
Yeah,
me, for
I can
somebody that
imagine.
already has a hard, time processing, emotions. I just felt like I learned to suppress them.
Hmm.
So what she offered me was an opportunity just to be me, right?
Yeah,
And she celebrated me. And by celebrating me, I celebrated myself. I
absolutely.
accepted and I learned how to love myself.
Hmm.
But there was, after she passed, you know that that had to be thrown out of the window, and that really affected, my teenage years,
Hmm.
and my early adulthood. I
Yeah.
really felt, at a loss,
Hmm.
because I've always gotten from other people, comments that we hear a lot, in our community. which is like, what's wrong with you, or why are you
Mhm.
so sensitive, or
Yeah.
why are you always crying, or just stop it, or
Yeah.
like, why do you get so upset about something rather than other, right? So, um, yeah, I just started questioning myself,
Mhm.
and but however, that being said, now more than before, I try to think back on those formative years and what helped me, which was just loving kindness.
Yeah.
She gave me the gift of her presence, not
Mhm.
only her acceptance, but her presence. And I really do remember that she was very observant
Mhm.
of around me.
Mhm.
And so I think like she really learned how to get to know me,
Mhm.
and so she would offer and adjust, you know things at home just to help me thrive.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. It seems like your mom was such an amazing person in that she really not just celebrated you, but she went above and beyond, especially at that time where this was not very common. But she went above and beyond to understand you and understand the various nuances and what helped you and what didn't help you, to set up the right environment in your
Hmm.
household so that you could thrive in life.
Yes, absolutely,
That's so
absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah, we hear that the first 5 years of a person's life are the most important.
Mhm.
It's when their brains are developing, right when we're trying to make sense of the world. So, it's important regardless whether you are, HSP or not.
Yeah.
But I think that, just remembering that, for parents of young children that are going through this is something important to remember,
Yeah.
that, just to be present, to pay attention, and to celebrate, the beauty, um, the beauty that we can offer.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. What do you wish the world would recognize about HSPs?
Uh, that it's, that is I wouldn't say that that's a hard question to answer, probably because I've never, I mean, it's a really good question. I never had to ask, or I've never been asked. So thank you for that. If I had to do a quick reflection right now, um, it would be, the fact that it's a trait. It's a personality trait, just like a lot, right? And that, there's a lot that we have to offer.
Mhm.
I think, unfortunately, we get shunned, like, or no, not weirdos, or like,
Mhm.
you know, can't adjust, right? So just see the qualities, like you were saying, all the qualities that you named at the beginning of the show, right? The gifts that we can bring, right, into any situation, and remind us, right, because it can feel lonely
Yeah.
sometimes, right? I know who I am, what my trait is, but I feel lonely,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm a middle-aged woman,
Mhm.
and it takes a friend like you, somebody that you can share and talk to about these, to feel like you belong,
Yeah.
right? So
Absolutely.
just that feeling of just making us feel like we belong
Yeah.
and that there's really nothing wrong with us,
Yeah.
I think is the greatest gift.
Yeah. And I'm working on building a community for highly sensitive people and highly sensitive, of parents of highly sensitive children. And I'm really
Mm-hmm.
hoping that community will help, because I really can relate to that, because really struggle with the sense of belonging. And the sense of belonging is
Mm-hmm.
such an important aspect of your life as a
Mm-hmm.
human being. And when you don't have it, it's really hard. It has a
Yes.
lot of negative impact on your life when you don't have a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, as we wrap up our conversation, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners, especially parents of highly sensitive children?
Um, I think the main thing is just and try to encourage parents just to be allies, right? Just to be allies, and highly sensitive children do not need to be overprotected, or they do not need to live in a little glass
Mhm.
box. There's really we're highly functional. It would be just the recognition, right? The recognition, and just presenting children just with the right tools,
Yeah.
right? You and I talked about our retreat at home,
Mhm.
right? So just there's many other things that I'm sure you will touch on your show, recommendations,
Absolutely.
things they can do. So it will be just do that, just yeah, just be allies and be advocates, and don't feel alone.
Mhm.
There's tons of information now out there. Now you have this amazing podcast, and you're building on that community, which I'm really excited about. And hopefully, we can meet, if not in person, virtually, and
Absolutely.
and thrive together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gabriela. I really appreciate you being
Hmm.
vulnerable, sharing your story with us. It's really important that people like you and I speak out and speak up and share our journey, because it's through this sharing and this vulnerability that others can see that they're not in this, alone. They're not, there are other people like them. And hopefully, once I build a community, we can all get together and see how beautiful HSPs are and how much they have to offer the world. And yes, they're sensitive, but their sensitivity is actually something positive and not negative. It's just the perspective, how you see that sensitivity. You can see it in a negative light, or you could see it for what it
Hmm.
is, which is a really beautiful, positive, trait or skill that highly sensitive people have. And it should be celebrated. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
As we close this episode, I want to remind you that you have the power to create a bright and successful future for your highly sensitive child. Embrace their uniqueness, nurture their strengths, and provide them with the love and support they need. Together, we can pave a path to success that aligns with their sensitivity. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. We'll be here with more insights and inspiration in our next episode. Until then, keep believing in your child's potential, because they truly are extraordinary. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and stay committed to setting your child up for success in life. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com.